Good Monday morning, Noblesville. Mayor Chris Jensen here with another edition of Mental Health Monday. It is Monday, June 22nd. Skies are blue. Kristen Boyce, owners of Pathways to Healing here in Noblesville, is joining me. Kristen, good morning.
Good morning, Mayor Jensen. It's good to be here.
Glad to have you once again giving your time to help us talk about the idea around mental health in our city. It's something that you really have poked me on for the past year or so plus about how important it is. It's something that we've all started to hear about and read about, and we've really enjoyed the last about 10 weeks or so a chance to come into your living room or your coffee shop or your office on Mondays and hear from you and talk about mental health. So just a few ground rules, if you will. If you're joining us, we'd love for you to say hi. Feel free to type a note over there on the side. Let us know that you're watching here today. If you have any questions at any point in time or want to share your thoughts, that's what this is here for. So take a moment, make a note, let us know what you're thinking on this beautiful Monday morning. I hope all the fathers or men who play fatherly roles had a wonderful Father's Day. I hope Mark Boyce, my good friend and city councilor, had a good Father's Day as well. So with that, Kristen, let's kick off and away and walk us through some square breathing.
So the first thing we're going to do, if you have not tuned in past episodes, is the first thing I teach clients is square breathing. This helps with our nervous system, to regulate our nervous system, to calm ourselves down when we feel activated or triggered, or we might feel overwhelmed with what's going on environmentally or internally. So first thing we do is put our feet on the floor, pressing into your feet. We're going to take an inhale through the nose, hold for 4, inhale for 4, hold for 4, and then slowly release out your mouth for 8. And check in throughout the process. If this is a new, you're for the first time doing this, this can cause you to feel a little lightheaded at first. And then once you get more used to it, your body adjusts. We're retraining the brain to learn how to calm down rather than to react. So let's do it together. Feet on the floor, pressing into your feet. Inhale through your nose. Exhale out your mouth. And on this next one, I'm going to have you sigh out, which is we have not done that in the past, but if you're in your house and you're just feeling really super activated, very triggered and overwhelmed, what I encourage you to do is an inhale through your nose and a sigh out through your mouth. So we're going to do that together. Inhale, sigh out. You can make it, really when you're home by yourself, you can do this anytime, anywhere. Let all that tension and tightness in your body be released on that exhale. That's really important. You're getting the benefit of the full breath on the inhale and a nice release on the exhale. Let's do one more. Exhale slowly out your mouth. That helps us get started to be able to lean into hard topics that we might be talking about today.
Speaking of hard topics, yeah, I love the breathing techniques. I can tell you it's something that I do on a regular basis. It's something I've taught my kids, 9, 5, and 3 to do as well. So it's something for all age groups at all times of the day. So I appreciate you sharing that with us. We're going to talk about some hard topics today. And I know we've posted on social media to let you know we're going to talk a little bit about teenagers during this time. And admittedly, I don't have a teenager yet. I'm getting close. I have a 9, 5, and 3-year-old, as I said, but we're going to talk about teenagers, and let's talk about kids in general, if you wouldn't mind, Kristen, because, I've had more tough conversations with my kids, in particular my 9-year-old, over the past 3 months than I even could imagine that I'd have, whether it be from COVID to explaining, why we are no longer with our friends, why we are now sheltered in our home, why we have to wear masks on our face, why schools no longer cancel, why we had a spring break trip that I know so many people had planned, why we can't go on that, why we can't hug grandma, you name it. Tough conversations. And then now, more recently, we've had a conversation around race relations in the city of Noblesville. Also a very difficult conversation, something that I am continuing to live in the moment on because I'm learning myself on a daily basis. But let's talk a little bit how do we talk to our kids and we can shift to teenagers here in a minute. But more importantly, how do we talk to our kids in general around some of these tough topics?
So the first thing is we have to be regulated, which means I have to be centered in myself in order to be able to attune and connect with the person in front of me, especially our children. So the first thing I say is take a deep breath, because sometimes we are scared to have these deeper conversations. We're scared that we're going to trigger our teen or our kid. And when we are centered, our children pick up on our regulated nervous system, and so they become more regulated. So we have to watch our tone of voice, watch our eyes, soften our facial expressions, because children react to our energy. So if I'm amped up, they're going to feel amped up as well. If I'm calm and centered, they can hear what I'm saying and digest it a lot easier. So the calmer I am, the more attuned I am to their facial expressions, their eyes, their tone of voice, and their body language, the more apt we are to be able to connect. And that's my first thing I teach parents is attunement. And they need that for healthy human development. So if I'm not attuned, I'm going to miss out on cues that something might be going on with my kids. So the first thing I say is, how are you feeling about being, not being able to see your friends? And they're like, I miss my friends. And then I'm going to acknowledge what they're telling me. I go, oh, that makes so much sense that you're really feeling lonely and missing your friends. And they're like, yeah, why can't I see my friends? And I'm like, yeah, it's really confusing, isn't it? So I'm acknowledging what they're saying. I'm softening. And this is something we weren't all taught in Parenting 101. We didn't get to take a class and say, oh, this is how we talk to our kids. It's super important that we listen wholeheartedly. And when they say something we don't agree with, we don't get defensive. That shuts our children down immediately. They're like, whoop, I'm done talking. I'm not talking to you. I don't feel safe. I feel like you're reactionary. And when you can work on your defense mechanisms and not be so defensive, they're going to talk to you more. They're going to feel safer to open up to you. They're going to feel connected to you. So I always encourage, this is something I have to practice in my own life on the regular. Like if they say something like, you were yelling, and I'm like, I wasn't yelling. Instead of saying I wasn't yelling, I will say, tell me more about how that felt for you. Very hard to do when we think, well, I wasn't yelling. Our first natural instinct is to say, I wasn't yelling. And I really want to explore with curiosity, what were they trying to tell me? So the first thing is get curious, hold compassionate space for them to share how they really feel and acknowledge what they're telling you. Don't give a story, don't lecture, don't tell them why they're wrong. Take in the information and really try to understand what they're telling you. Then they will be more apt to want to tell you more about how they feel about various topics, hard topics, because what we're finding out right now in terms of teens and kids is they have 80% of people that just took a survey said that especially teens are afraid to ask for help. Mm-hmm. Think about adults. We're afraid to ask for help. And if we can create a connected, attuned relationship, it does mean we still have boundaries. It doesn't mean we don't still have boundaries. They were more apt to tell us if they need help, if they're struggling emotionally. And that's super important, that we're attuned enough to our child or to a family member that may need help for them to feel safe enough to come to you and say, hey, I'm really struggling. I'm really feeling sad, lonely, depressed, whatever the emotion is, and that we can handle it and we can hold space for them to share with us.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. You mentioned the study you sent me this morning, a study talking more about teens and how COVID-19 has impacted them. We've touched on this a little bit over the last several months, but if you think about teenagers, they have a lot going on. You have teens that were graduating high school, teens that were going to prom, teens that wanted to get their driver's license. It's a very dynamic age group. And again, self-admittedly, I don't have one at home, but I was one at one point in time. And so let's talk specifically about what that study said. And then if you wouldn't mind talking, Kristen, a little bit about if you're a parent of a teen, or a grandparent of a teen, or a friend of a teen, or just past teens, camp counselors of teens, you name it, we interacting with them a lot. how do we handle them a little bit differently than we might handle other age groups?
Yeah, well, this study was really important that came out because they specifically felt like we're focusing a lot on little kids, but we're not really focusing on the teens that are going through major life transitions, like you alluded to. And some are going off to college, and there's some uncertainty with whether or not they're going to be on campus, aren't they going to be on campus, how that's going to look. So there was a study done of 1,500 teenagers conducted by the Harris Poll. And 7 out of 10 teenagers said they were struggling with their mental health in some capacity. More than half said they were experiencing anxiety. More than half said they were experiencing anxiety. 45% they said they felt more stressed because they had the online learning. And 43% said they identified with feeling depressed. And let me give you some context. In general, compared to typical numbers, we typically have 12% of teens that fit the criteria for depression compared to this 43%. So look at the drastic difference we're having. And then roughly 30% in general prior to COVID had some anxiety disorder up to 18 years of age. So you can see the drastic difference. And 80% said they felt lonely. Whew, that's a yeah. So that's a huge staggering number. 80% said they felt also uncomfortable to ask for help. So we have some pretty high numbers here. The good news about this is we can talk to our teens, whether, like you said, if you're a youth pastor, a teacher, a camp counselor, a grandparent, an aunt or uncle, it doesn't matter. The fact that you can be a parent to speak into these teens' lives is critical right now. They need someone attuning to them, asking them how they feel, asking them, do they feel depressed? Do they feel anxious? Do they feel stressed? Asking them questions about, what is this like for you? Tell me what's going on for you. If you do not have a safe, connected relationship, they're probably not going to be apt to tell you. If they feel safe enough with you, you're able to hold space and acknowledge their feelings, they're probably going to tell you how they feel. And if you don't feel equipped to do it, get help, see a therapist, seek help from somebody that is kind of a quote unquote expert or works with teens to help you to facilitate some healing there. It's really important we're being proactive and acknowledging people's feelings right now. It doesn't matter the age in particular, we're talking about teens, but we need to teach people how to have conversations with each other. We're all afraid to offend anybody or upset anybody. And we're just like, ooh, I don't want to say the wrong thing. And all I'm asking people to do is ask questions like, how are you feeling? Then you can acknowledge the feeling by saying, yeah, that makes sense. You feel sad. Tell me more about it. I'm giving you a cheat sheet. How are you feeling? That makes sense. You feel that way. Tell me more about it. Hold space. Try to listen wholeheartedly. We're constantly thinking of the next thing to say. We're constantly thinking of our next defense, rebuttal to what the person's saying or how that isn't true. And when we do that, we shut the person down or we create disconnection, especially with teens. The more we go into lecture mode or the more we're like, well, that's not true. You have great friends. If they say, well, I feel lonely. Well, what about you have so-and-so and you have so-and-so? They're going to shut down because you're trying to fix it for them. People don't want to be fixed. They want to be heard. They want to be understood. They want to be seen. They want to be acknowledged. They don't want to be fixed. And as parents, we have lots of experience. So we're like, well, let me tell you how to fix it. And that isn't helpful. Think about when you're upset about something. Let's say you're going through grief or loss, or you're feeling lonely, or you're feeling despair. And someone goes, well, you just need to X, Y, Z. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm done talking now. You don't feel seen, heard, and acknowledged. There's not a lot of empathy. Empathy and compassion is what I'm imploring people to offer up right now for themselves, for their families, for their children, for their neighbors, for their community, because that helps create the nervous system can settle down. It's like taking a breath. It can feel safe to be able to tell you how they really do feel, and it creates connection. And that's what we're missing a lot of because it wasn't done for us. no one showed, well, not no one, but very few people might have showed us empathy and compassion. And so then we didn't learn it. We don't know how to offer it. And so this is really important as we build a community, that we're offering up and we're teaching empathy and compassion. And that's, we come first with fully being regulated, less defensive, and then being able to acknowledge how someone else feels by listening wholeheartedly, especially with our kids and our teens.
That's interesting. That speaks to me quite a bit. I think I've talked before. I'm a fixer. I am somebody who wants to. Julie Jensen will tell you if she gets angry about something, which very rarely happens. Just kidding. It happens quite a bit.
Hey, we all get angry.
We all get angry.
Part of
we all get angry. Although yesterday I got a free pass. Pretty much, I could. It was great. But no, back this morning, mad at me. I'm just kidding. But I want instant satisfaction, right? I want to fix it. What's the matter? What can I do to change it? And every once in a while, she's like, sometimes I just need to be mad about something. I need to be upset about something. She needs time where I am a fixer. And so I personally am pledging to you, Noblesville, that I'm trying to step back, listen, give empathy, give grace, let that time work through before just jumping right into a solution. So, and I know that's hard. That's really, really hard to do. And I really enjoyed your point too about going into a conversation with already a preset answer in my head. So often I'll ask my kids a question and, or talk to them about something, and I have an instant answer already for them ready. And I'm thinking about what's next, listening. We don't necessarily all just want to be fixed. I think that's very, very, very helpful advice. So if I have a teen or a kid or a spouse or a friend or whatever that just gives you the standard, I'm good. Let's talk a little bit about how we get beyond the good, or I'm fine. That's the worst. I'm fine.
That's
all fine. So yeah, fine might as well just be flames all around you, right? So let's talk a little bit specifically about how to get past that.
It's a great question, because you will hear that a lot. I'm fine. And what they've learned is, I call it Switzerland. So if I say I'm fine, you don't have to lecture me. You don't have to fix me. You don't have to tell me how I'm wrong. You don't have to give me your perspective. So I just go, I'm fine, shut it down, because then it's safe. It's safe for me to just walk away from this conversation and not have to be wrong, not have to be shamed, blamed, judged. So if I can just stay away from blame, shame, and judgment, I'm going to try to play neutral, which keeps us lonely, disconnected, isolated, and stuck. So the first thing I say is you have to check your energy in the conversation, the person that's asking, how are you? And if I come with, how are you doing? And they go, I'm fine. I go, no, I really, really do want to know. Like, how are you really feeling? I can see it in your eyes that you look really sad and lonely, or I can sense there's something going on. I really do want to know how you're feeling. See how I softened my tone. I sounded really genuinely interested. I really said, I really, really do care about you and want to know. And that is what people don't say. They go, okay, they move past it. Unless you're in a couplehood, and then that could be a triggering word. I'm fine for couples. And when I say, no, I really do want to know. And I'm not coming at it like, well, you always say you're fine, and I'm sick of you saying you're fine. Okay, now that, do you see my energy shifted? And I'm like, ooh, I'm not going to talk to you. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot about what I'm bringing to the table and what is my motivation or intention. So if I'm trying to fix somebody, I'm trying to control an outcome. I'm trying to, I have an expectation that I'm trying to meet. The other receiving person is going to feel that and be like, I'm out because this is a test. And if I say the wrong thing, then you're going to shut down. Or I might have a belief system. You don't really care about me. You don't really want to know about me. Or you do, and you want to try to fix it. You want me to be different. And so then I'm not going to open up. So if I really come at it in a genuine, authentic, caring place, I really do want to know, and I really do want to understand, I'm going to approach that. That's going to feel safer to the person talking to me. And a lot of times people say people don't really want to know. Like if you go, how are you? When you're passing somebody, people are like, they don't really want to know. And I'm like, well, you don't really know that. If they're asking how you feel, that's a much deeper question. And chances are they really do want to know. So I encourage people to ask a different question by saying, how are you feeling? That sounds much more like I really do want to know versus how are you doing? That just seems like, how are you? A standard question that we ask kind of as a culture, and we don't really feel like they want to know. But if I say, how are you feeling? Totally different question with a very authentic, sincere approach. And my intention isn't, I have no agenda. I have no intention but for connection.
Mhm.
So that would be my suggestion, trying a different question. And then if someone says, I'm fine, say, no, really, I really do want to know how you're doing.
That's great. That's really helpful to have a different question and be thinking of some other ways to, I don't want to encourage you to think too far ahead of in a situation, but to have some of those in your back pocket to know that if you're going up to a I'm fine person, maybe it's time to switch up how you approach that conversation a little bit. So let's talk real quick in our last remaining minutes here briefly about, parenting teens would be very difficult. You probably are an expert at this by now. Two girls nonetheless. I am just getting ready to approach that day, but let's talk in a parental relationship here. If I'm a parent who is working very hard to ask questions of teens, to identify certain things, and maybe my spouse is not as interested in that conversation, there's some discernment between parents. How would you talk to your spouse, your partner, whoever that may be, about, hey, I think we need to take a different approach here with our teens going forward?
So I think this is common because some parents aren't on the same page.
Nope.
And this is how it rolls. The first thing is I always encourage people, and I don't like to use the word always, but this is what I'm going to do, doing your own work first.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm trying to fix my husband or my spouse or my partner, just like I'm trying to fix my kid, that is not going to translate well into a trying to understand conversation. I like to take different approaches. One is you can go the direct approach with an I feel statement. I feel sad because I really see how our parenting is impacting our child, or, Susie, whatever your kid's name is. And I'm really wondering if you'd be open to exploring a different approach, because I see the impact. They are shutting down. They are disconnecting from us. And I really want to see if we can try a different approach. So that's one option. The next option is offering up, hey, would you be interested in reading this book together? And I have several suggestions. This is my favorite, Parenting from the Inside Out, Dan Siegel's work. It's oldie but goodie. You can see mine's all highlighted. And you can talk through it. You can say, and some, listen to it on audio, version. You can get it at the library for free. You do it that way. Third is through a podcast. You listen to a shared podcast, then you talk through it. There's many different ways, but what I implore completely and totally is the person that is wanting to have this conversation, continue to do your own work and model it for your partner. So you embody it, you practice it, you show up consistently the way that you want the family to really embrace how we communicate. You're leading the way. And that is my number one way I live my life, is, am I showing up non-defensive? And I'm showing up with listening without an agenda? Am I showing up trying not to fix, rescue, save my child from disappointment or hurt or pain? Am I teaching them how to deal with hurt and pain, which we all are going to have losses? And if I can help my child be able to nurture their own feelings, connect to their feelings, acknowledge themselves, have some self-compassion, knowing how to set boundaries, what's okay, what's not okay, and communicate those. That's my goal. And I have to walk the walk. And I keep an open dialogue with my husband. I mean, this is something I'm passionate about, doing our own work. And he's open to it, which is good. Not everybody is. And I realize that. That's when I encourage people, you do your own, you come, you lead, you show what this looks like. And over time, it's going to be hard to argue that you're getting different results based on the work that you're doing. You're reading the books, you're listening to the podcast, you're embodying regulation and regulating yourself, regulating your nervous system, attending to your emotions. You're talking about emotions in the family system. These are all things that change the system. It begins with one person. And if someone doesn't get on board, that's a whole nother conversation that we have in therapy. If someone's, abusive, emotionally abusive, I'm going to encourage support groups and additional resources like Prevail to come on board and usher them through it along with the therapy process. So that's a different ball game. If someone's in an unhealthy system and an unhealthy environment, there are resources out there to get some help for that. It's so important you're walking the walk. It's critical.
It kind of goes back to really the basics of life, lead by example, right? Going back to that point, that's just fascinating to hear that come about and finally be in play here. So great advice. So you kind of touched on it there, but if you are in a situation right now where you're at wit's end, you are struggling, and if Kristen, if you want to point out any other books you want to recommend on this parenting topic before we get to this next question, please do. But some resources that might be out there for folks that need it. You mentioned Prevail, others. Can you lead us, after maybe tell us some book recommendations, lead us into that conversation of where people can turn for help today?
Yes. So if you are in a domestic violence situation or emotional abuse, Prevail here in Noblesville is fantastic. Their number is 317-776-3472. They're available 24/7. Suicide prevention hotline is 1-800-273-TALK. And if you want to text, you don't want to make a phone call, you can text 741-741 and just type connect, and they will text you back and forth and help walk you through any situation that you're in that you might need assistance with. And then the disaster distress helpline is 1-800-985-5990. And then we, of course, have Community North and Fairbanks for addiction issues here in Indianapolis that are available 24/7 as well. In terms of parenting books, you've got my one that my go-to is Parenting from the Inside Out. Highly recommend that one. And then this is a new one called Permission to Feel. This is by Dr. Mark Brackett. And this is about helping people learn how to feel feelings, talk about feelings. This helps reduce bullying. This helps reduce family systemic issues where we can actually talk through our feelings, acknowledge each other. Everybody wants to be seen, heard, and acknowledged. That is our number one as human beings. This is what we want. This will help you. If you have smaller kids, I'm getting underneath my laptop here because I have this one also marked up. I have so many resources, but this one is Easy to Love, Difficult. I have it tabbed. Difficult to Discipline by Dr. Becky Bailey. And this is consciousdiscipline.org. And a lot of school systems use this. And this is what I was trained in when I was pregnant with my first. Love it. This is excellent, excellent, excellent. If you need help or if you're a grandparent and you want to just change systems up, I recommend you get this. If you're working with kids at all, those are my top 3 right now. There's so many more, but
more to come, I'm sure.
Yeah. More to come.
Well, thank you. That's just some incredible resources. I'm gonna save this video, although it'll be saved at the city's Facebook page. So when my kids become teenagers, I'll go back and rewatch this. You make it sound effortless. I know it's not. So
no.
all you parents out there, hang in there, take a deep breath, practice your square breathing, read a book, reach out to a friend or neighbor, take care of one another. Remember, you don't have to fix everyone. You don't. You just need to listen and love and be there for your friends and your neighbors going along. So Kristen Boyce, again, owners of Pathways to Healing here in Noblesville, thank you for so generously once again giving some time on this Monday for some of these hard topics. All of you who listened, all of you who listened throughout the week, we averaged several thousand viewers throughout the week, which is incredible. I had people stopping. I'm sure they stop you all the time too, Kristen, and comment about things that we talk about. So thank you for sharing your heart, Noblesville. Thanks for listening with us. You matter. You belong. We're excited for another beautiful week, and we'll see you back here next Monday at 11 a.m. For another edition of Mental Health Monday. In the meantime, stay safe, everyone. Thank you. Thanks again, Kristen.
Thank you.